This is the worst of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz podcast.
Greg Cote of the Miami Herald in with us as he is every Tuesday. We look forward only to the end of each hour when the clock will inevitably clip him at 54:32. At 10:54:32, Greg Cote, unsuspecting, will get clipped by the hard network out.
We do a local hour every day, and he is 1 for 1 already today. He got clipped by the first.
We were 3 for 3 last week. It was a real success. The shows are appreciably worse when we don't get Cote. At the end of each hour, we've had a hard network out for many years. Cote refuses to learn the clock. We actually had the back and forth last week. It was hysterical, where Greg Cote is mad at us for getting him, and he's calling us bleep holes, and it dawns on him as I'm speaking to him, hey, Greg, you're totally in control of this. The clock is the same every week. At the end of each hour, you're totally in control of whether or not we're bleep holes or not. Learn the clock.
Yeah, that's a fair comment.
He has not. he has not learned the clock. Is this a fair comment? This is from Roger Goodell, and I do feel like we're reaching a point here on CTE discussions where I lose you the moment we start talking about it. The moment we start talking about it. So let's just play the sound and get it over with, because this was funny the way this happened. Because Jamal Adams is being asked questions, and Jamal Adams is saying, while sitting right next to the commissioner of the league, this is what Jamal Adams is saying, and Roger Goodell has to recoil. And in fact, I think he ended up stepping in and taking one of the questions that was directed to Jamal Adams, because here's Jamal Adams sitting next to the commissioner, and you can't really be saying this in this climate.
If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally, I would be at peace, and that's not a lie. Like. Yeah. It's so much sacrifice that we go through as a team, and just connecting as one and winning ball games. It's nothing like playing the game of football. But again, I'm all about making the game safer. That's all I can say about it.
Roger Goodell said enough of that. I think you're right. I think he answered a question
I
for
think
Adam.
there was a follow-up question because the reporter seized. Wait a minute. What did Jamal Adams just say while sitting next to the commissioner of the league? That he'd be willing to die on the field, which would only be the commissioner of the league's worst nightmare. Someone dying on the field. So here's what happened with Roger Goodell after I think the next question was a follow-up to Jamal Adams.
The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, on average. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier. And I think because of all the advancements, including the medical care, that number is going to even increase for them.
What
How about that?
are you talking about?
Facts is facts.
I mean, he's in cleanup mode right there.
Those are not facts. Wait a minute. So you're arguing that playing football is healthier than being a person who's not playing football? Is that really the argument that you're making?
It prolongs your life.
Is he making a pro-exercise argument? You live longer if you exercise than if you don't?
Well, I think one of the things that gets lost in whatever numbers he's citing there of the average football player living 5 years longer than the average human being, the thing that he's forgetting about, and this comes into play with the crime statistics, right? That the NFL player doesn't get arrested as much as the average citizen, but of course the NFL player has money. So the average citizen sometimes is really desperate and commits crimes in that desperation. Among people with money,
right,
the NFL gets arrested at a larger rate among the wealthy. And I believe that we can puncture some holes in this particular math by saying that the average NFL player might be healthier than the average poor person.
I think it'd be funny if NFL players started getting arrested for like robbing convenience stores and stuff like that. That would be something different. I'd enjoy that.
But what is the commissioner of the league talking about?
I have no idea. To me, the whole thing was kind of interesting from this standpoint. And then to make matters worse for the commissioner, the press took Jamal Adams' comments and read them to another Jet, Morris Claiborne, and he said, "Nah, I'd die on the field too," which the commissioner just does not want to hear. But I was thinking, like, that's the mentality. I know you have players who are retiring at an earlier age, but I believe that's the mentality of most NFL players. And the reaction you heard from the fans, the ovation, I think that's what fans expect from the guys they're rooting
die
for.
For our entertainment. Yes, please die for our entertainment on the field. We want you to care that much, care like that.
I would die on the field. I would be at peace. I would be at peace. And that's not a lie. Like
what? What?
He would die and then be buried under the field, right under the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
In a team logo casket.
I mean, I would die out there on that football field. This is my life. This is what I do. I give it all. I would die out there. I think that's the mentality of a lot of NFL players, especially young ones.
Did you see what Martellus Bennett said on Twitter yesterday? Look, football is great, but I ain't dying for this bleep. LOL.
Well, I think that it's an easy thing to say. It's a touch harder to do. My guess is if we were to wander onto the field, if someone were actually dying and asked them, hey, where you want to die? This good? It's all right? You said you wanted this. Is this good? Everything all right?
You're on the 32-yard line in northern New Jersey. This is where you want to go?
Lift your thumb up. You can't? You can't lift it up?
Your thumb's on the 30-yard line? I'll pick it up.
Lift your thumb up just to tell me if this is okay way to die. You're all right dying this way on the field. You can't? Where's your thumb? Who ate it? Who ate your thumb? Did a defensive tackle eat your thumb?
Geno Atkins?
It was Geno, wasn't it?
Look at Geno Atkins.
It was Marcel Darius, wasn't it? Marcel Darius ate your thumb, yes?
But I understand the mentality, man. Like, I love this show and I love radio so much, I would die right here in this studio. That's the perfect spot for me. Seriously, right at the microphone. I would. I mean, I absolutely would. I get the mentality, and I don't hear anyone giving me any sort of applause. I mean, I felt like I deserved it.
Really?
Right,
you're envious of the applause. Okay, everybody, let's applaud. God,
listen, if I died doing what I loved, that would make me a happy man.
You might end up dying here just because you're generally unhealthy.
Hold on a second.
Any minute.
Let me backtrack for a second here. The commissioner has to be the public piñata for the owners, and when the CTE report comes out that the media runs with, he has got to, right? He can't confirm it. He's got to deny it. They've got to be big tobacco in this situation. They've got to talk about, that's just an asinine thing to say. Asinine. The idea of it's healthier to play football than not. That's he's arguing here that if you play football, you're 5 years going to live 5 years longer than the average person. That's the argument. Listen to this.
The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, on average. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier. And I think because of all the advancements, including the medical care, that number is going to even increase for them.
Let me ask you this question, Greg. Do you think when Roger Goodell, he was on Mike and Mike recently, and he was arguing against marijuana, and he was talking, and this was laughable, about how unhealthy marijuana smoke is for the lungs, as if his game is not a lot healthier, unhealthier for his employees than marijuana smoke. But let me ask you this question. Someone who's making that argument has got to be someone who's never smoked, right?
Probably.
If you're Roger Goodell and you're actually forming the argument that marijuana smoke is something that needs to be avoided for your lungs and saying that that's unhealthy while pioneering over what all of us can agree is a really unhealthy sport, you have to be someone who doesn't really know the effects of marijuana. In fact, are largely the people, is there anybody arguing who's a marijuana user arguing how unhealthy marijuana is or that people should avoid it or part of what is remaining of the stigma of marijuana use? Can there be people who have used who are making that argument?
I highly doubt it, man.
No, there are.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, but yes. But people tend to defend that. They do. They'll find ways to defend what it is they're doing. They might know or think that it might be bad for them and their health and their lungs, but they'll find ways to defend it. I don't think they would voice it.
I guess what I'm asking you guys is the people who are hardline anti-marijuana, they have to be people who haven't tried it before and think the effects are more evil than they actually are, right?
I would think for the most part. And you rarely hear about marijuana and lung disease because you don't smoke marijuana in that kind of quantity.
No, it sounded, when he said that on Mike and Mike, I'm like, this is a person who has no idea what he's talking about.
Right, yeah.
He's on a national radio show talking about marijuana and why his league bans marijuana, and he has no idea what he's talking about. Let's listen to this sound. So you guys tell me if this makes any sense to you from Mike and Mike.
We look at it from a medical standpoint. So if people feel that it has a medical benefit, the medical advisors have to tell you that. And we have joint advisors. We also have independent advisors, both the NFLPA and the NFL. And we'll sit down and talk about that. But we've been studying that through our advisors. To date, they haven't said this is a change we think you should make that's in the best interest of the health and safety of our players. If they do, we're certainly going to consider that. I think you still have to look at a lot of aspects of marijuana use. Is it something that can be negative to the health of our players? And there's still, listen, you're ingesting smoke, so that's not usually a very positive thing that people would say. It does have addictive nature. There are a lot of compounds in marijuana that may not be healthy for the players long term. All of those things have to be considered, and it's not as simple as, someone just wants to feel better after a game. We really want to help our players in that circumstance, but I want to make sure that the negative consequences aren't something that is going to be something that we'll be held accountable for some years down the road.
That's fairly amazing right there. The idea that he's willing to concede that marijuana might be unhealthy, but he's not willing to concede that marijuana might be healthy. Like that, I got to talk to my joint advisors. First of all, that's a funny phrase, joint advisors. Who is the joint advisor? Is it Woody Harrelson? Like, who's the joint advisor? Who is Snoop Dogg? Give me the guy. Who would we argue? Who's most closely associated with marijuana now?
Cheech.
I know, but that's so old, man.
It's probably Snoop because didn't Woody Harrelson just give up pot?
Is it just Snoop right now?
Yeah.
Who's the joint advisor?
There's a ton of people. Wiz Khalifa, there's a ton of people associated with marijuana, but no one tops the Dogfather.
Nobody? If I go all in with associated with marijuana, the Dogfather, nobody can beat me? Joint advisors. He's really making the argument. So to recap the first segment of the national show, Roger Goodell thinks you'll live longer if you play football than if you don't. That playing football is healthier than not playing football. And furthermore, he knows that marijuana is bad for you, but he's got to consult his joint advisors before he figures out whether marijuana is actually any good in terms of pain relief. He's not willing to concede that point yet.
I have a more modern reference. Willie Nelson.
Oh, yeah.
It's not very modern. It's still, but Cheech, you went off the board. Like, Cheech, you went to the earliest known marijuana user. Like, who was known as a marijuana user before Cheech and Chong? Like, I think they cornered that market. Was it Bob Marley? Was Bob Marley?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But
Willie Nelson's been smoking weed for about 60 years, though.
Yeah.
You gotta respect that.
I love that. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel who said, when Migos came on his set, I have never had people who smelled more like marijuana, and I've interviewed Willie Nelson.
Hey, buddy, the wait is over. It's the 2017 Suey Awards, starting August 21st. The Suey Awards. Don Le Batard.
So I say to Cote, you are great at donating other people's time. And he says, that's right. And then I say, and you're terrible at donating your own time. And he's like, that's right.
What's your point? I mean, somebody's got to be overseer.
You're not that person.
I am that.
No,
I'm a can-do man. Can do, baby.
Doing it.
Exactly. Well put.
Stugats.
Why is he better being at being you than you are at being you on the radio?
I will have
he knows that the musical nature of this is that required of doing it.
You never know.
To maximum annoy me.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Shark Week around here. Greg Norman is going to be on with us in 10 minutes.
Have you seen these pictures of him recently where he is shirtless?
He is secretly jacked. We've done that show for a while here where we do the show of people who are secretly jacked.
the pictures I saw recently, at the age of 62, Greg Norman looks better than I'll ever look in my entire life.
He looks very fit. Allison booked him only because she saw a picture of him nude by a lake for some reason, and she's like, let's get him on the
I think
show.
That's what Sue's talking about. He just didn't give him enough credit. He only said shirtless. This guy is all out there.
Yeah, he's naked. I don't know why he's naked by that lake, but he looks good naked, and if you look like that naked, you too might be naked in public spaces.
And the weird thing is he's in the middle of a family campground, which is a little weird.
Do you have anything else, or you're just going to stare at the microphone and let us all marinate in your crappy joke?
Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay, very good.
I thought that was pretty good.
Contribution.
It's a
We've
visual.
been on the air for 22 minutes
It's a
here.
visual.
You've been terrible.
No,
like
really.
You haven't said
No, I think I've
anything,
been
and when
above
you limp in with that.
Yeah, no, I've been above average.
Shockiller!
You're welcome.
Come in and tickle him. Let's go. Come in here and tickle him. Yes, he doesn't like to be tickled. And his punishment for ruining segments is to be tickled by everybody.
I'm going to start wearing a medieval suit of armor in here, an anti-tickling apparatus.
That's fine. You're going to have to because everyone come in here. What? Come on, let's go. Everybody. What?
No, you know, my doctor.
I'm worried about his heart.
Thank you, son.
Really?
Dr. McGillicuddy says that this is dangerous. No.
Tickle.
No.
Tickle.
All right, I'm going to start stabbing people. Caps off.
Caps off.
Oh, my God. He's waving around a torch of some sort. He's like Indiana Jones with those snakes in that tomb. He's just waving around a torch.
He just referenced a puppet that's in here that only the TV audience can see.
All right, get out of here, Cody. Go to the penalty
we're on
box.
TV.
No, but it's on ESPNU. There are like 50,000 viewers on ESPNU. We're listened to by a lot of people who don't have visuals to our studio.
I don't know that.
Greg Cody, 2 minutes in the
You're
box.
either on TV or you're not.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Just the worst, man.
2 minutes.
He's referencing, listen to what just happened. This is after having a conversation with me in the bathroom about whether he should get a raise.
Thank you for airing my
You're standing in front of the TV camera, man.
Get out of here. Let me
raise in 2 years.
Let me recap what just happened. What would make you think you earned or deserve a raise? Let me recap what just happened. He brought a giant wooden puppet from his garage that he just referenced on the show, even though nobody gets what the hell he's talking about. It's a giant, it's as big.
It's not from his garage. Game room.
Yes.
All right, it's as big as Isaiah Thomas. This puppet, this wooden puppet with strings, and it's up in here. And for some reason, he just decided to reference it, just alienating the entire radio audience that doesn't have any earthly idea what he's talking about.
After an awful joke.
He's the worst. I thought you were the worst. I was wrong.
That's why I love Tuesday.
He's the worst. Sexy as hell, Greg Norman, next.
Nothing in life is free. Time for some ads.
Tuesdays make you appreciate me. It's why I love them.
Tuesdays are my least fun day.
But everyone else loves them.
I know. The summer's almost over. Take your family out on a road trip before the kids go back to school. But before you do, make sure your car is up to snuff. Go and talk to the guys at Vance Auto Parts. Why is he putting a towel on his head in the penalty box?
Greg Cody, man.
He's so strange. Was just asking me about a raise in the bathroom. Like, get out of here. I'm like, get out of here. Greg Norman next.
Dan Le Batard.
You can't have fun when you're old?
Stugats.
Look at me. I'm having a ball. Balling it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Texture writes in, I need a Stugats Mardi Gras. All right, good timing. Greg Norman with us on ESPN Radio. Greg Norman is the Great White Shark. He's an excellent golfer, and he's a better businessman. I think he's a better businessman than he is a golfer. Thank you for joining us, Greg. Are you a better businessman than you are a golfer?
Well, good morning, guys, and Dan and Stu and Greg, and to all your listeners. I don't know. I think on the back nine of my life, it's be an interesting comparison to say the truth, to say the least. But I enjoy it. I had a pretty good platform to kick it off on with my brand and my logo and my positioning. So you might be right. I had a pretty good career, though. I wouldn't change that for much.
Well, I'm curious though. Is there any place that you not having gone to college is a hindrance in the business world as someone who was wildly successful at business?
That is a great question. I often think about that myself. Sometimes I wish I did go to college, but then again, when you look at people like Jack Welch and what he's done without going to college, and I know a lot of my friends who have been extremely successful who dropped out of college and chased their dreams and their aspirations. Look, I think being extremely street smart, street sensitive, and being aware of your environment and the capabilities of identifying virgin space. But at the same time, you've got to bolt on good human resources around you. You've got to bolt on good, intelligent people, business smarts, business savvy, can see into the future like I can. We just did a forever deal with Authentic Brands Group where they bought into my licensing side of my division, and it's a forever deal. So you've got to see out 200-plus years to actually see the rewards.
What's the greatest mistake that you've made in business? What's an investment you've made that was terrible?
Well, I did make a poor investment in a hard good manufacturer back in the mid-'90s, early '90s. I thought the space, it was a very good recognizable brand. It was called McGregor. And I thought, the success that I had with Cobra, which was an extremely successful investment venture that I partaked in, and I thought I could replicate it with McGregor, but unfortunately that didn't play out that way. And I quietly burnt through a bit of cash and came out the other side learning a lot of interesting lessons and mistakes, and vowed never to make them again.
What's the best investment you've ever made, Greg?
Be honest with you, I bought 12% of Cobra Golf way back in the mid to late 80s, 12% of the company. The investment dollars that I put in went to research and development, and at that time Callaway came out with a big Bertha driver, but nobody had capitalized on the market of being oversized iron, so I convinced the Cobra R&D people to invest my dollars into our research and development, come out with an oversized iron, and we just hit it. We went from about a circa $40 million company, and we sold it for a lot of money, and so that really set me through the roof, and that's probably by far the best.
You got bashful there, Norman. You bought it at $40 million. You sold it for how much? Let's go, Norman. Let's go. You got bashful there. What did you sell it for?
It was north of 400.
All right, that's you made your
man.
Yeah, that's a good investment.
Greg, you were ahead of your time a little bit. I remember you had a Greg Norman wine label years before that became sort of common among celebrities. What was the genesis of it all? When did it begin that you or somebody said to you, you're going to become a brand? When did all that happen?
Well, brand recognition came with a gentleman called Paul Fireman who owned Reebok at the time. And I was an endorsed player wearing Reebok clothing, and Reebok was really a women's athletic shoe. And he was growing the business here in the United States. And eventually, Paul was a massive golf fan, and he became a really close friend of mine. And he said to me one day in the late 80s, he said, we're going to start the Greg Norman collection. I went, okay, what is that? And he said, well, we're going to get in the soft goods side of business. And so we came up with the logo. We invented the logo, designed it. It had to be multicolored because of some restrictions we had with another manufacturer around the world. And we came up with the logo. It was very, very recognizable and accepted. But the most important thing is Reebok had distribution centers all over the country. So to get our product out there, the soft goods out there, was very, very easy to do because we didn't have to start a whole new distribution side of things. And that was really the catalyst. And Paul Fireman taught me to understand about marketing, understand about branding, understand about awareness of the space. I mentioned a few minutes ago about identifying virgin space and going after it. So he actually taught me a lot of that, and today I use that advice and experience very, very well to be where I'm at today.
All right, let me ask you a couple of questions here on your ranch. Your ranch is said to be a marvel. So what is the acreage on your ranch?
It's just under 12,000 acres. We have 2.5 miles of the White River. We sit in Rio Blanco County, just outside of a little town called Mica, where the main lodge is in an elevation just under 9,000 feet, and the rest of the ranch just sits down underneath it. So from my lodge, I can pretty much see the entire property, and we're surrounded by national park and wilderness. And I love getting out in the high country and disappearing in the wilderness.
Why were you nude there the other day? Why were you nude near the water the other day, being photographed in your natural habitat, so to speak?
Well, wilderness is natural habitat, and wife and I and a couple of my ranch hands, we're in the saddle for about a day and a half. So it was a big long climb to get to the top to where we're at, and you needed to freshen up. So the water's very, very cold to say the least, and I just decided to wash up. I do it every year. You're in the wilderness, and my wife said, "My God, you look hot. Why don't you take the photograph and let's send it down?"
You did. I mean, you look good.
You look amazing. You were showing off there, Norman, weren't you? You were showing off.
You wanted your photograph taken. You were preening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You were posing, yeah.
Well, why not, I guess. There's nothing wrong with that. Your birthday suit is the best suit you could ever wear.
No, it looked good.
It was Mrs. Norman's idea.
The whole thing looked good. That's not what he said. You weren't listening at all. You just wanted to get your baby in. So Greg Norman's with us on ESPN Radio. Couple of quick questions, Greg. The ranch, it's been reported that it's worth $75 million. Just over or under? Over or under?
Look, if somebody wanted to pay me $75 million for it, I would take it.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So what would you, if you have to impress somebody with an item or something on the ranch outside of the nature, which you obviously love,
and your body,
what is the thing that you would point to and say, this is how I would impress a stranger?
Look, I think there's many aspects to the ranch. There's a variety of ecosystems, from real dark, heavy ponderosa pines and spruces to dry desert country to mountain lion country to elk. We have a elk habitat that I've laid out, probably 2,500 acres of the ranch, so I don't allow anybody to go in there to do anything. It's just all the wild animals go in there. We have copious amounts of bear and mountain lion and elk, and when I do take people out there in the hunting season, like for example starting in September, I take them in there just to let them hear the animals, see the animals, and I do very little hunting on the property now. It's just to get that feel of what Mother Nature is all about. It's truly therapy for a lot of people, and then there's times when people come out from the East Coast, and I have two ranges on my property, one that goes out 1,600 yards that I love shooting, long range rifle shooting, and one the short range for pistols and other things. So, and I'm always amazed how everybody that comes there who's never experienced that type of thing always want to see it or feel it or understand it. So there's so many different aspects of what you can do on the ranch, and then there's horseback riding and fishing and all that stuff. And have a tremendous sporting clays range. I have 26 stations there that people just love to shoot sporting clays as well.
When's the last time Greg Norman flew public?
I do it occasionally when I go to the Middle East on my own to do a meeting or something. I don't take the plane. I go, if I go to Australia with one or two other people, I don't take my plane. I take Qantas Airlines, and so there are times that I'll do it maybe once a year, something like that.
What is the most dangerous situation that Greg Norman has found himself in because he's something of a thrill junkie?
Boy, that's a great question again. I would say scuba diving one time. I was in the Bahamas, and I was actually trying to find the end of a cave system that Jacques Cousteau was trying to look for. And I was in there with a couple of individuals, and we actually did a really deep penetration into this cave down to about 195 feet, 197 feet. And it got very tight and very claustrophobic and extremely dark, of course. The light just disappears. And one of the individuals kind of got into a little bit of a panic mode, and so we had to settle the situation down and get out of there, as safely as we possibly could. So, in a situation like that, you expect the unexpected, I suppose.
You weren't panicked, Norman? Norman, you weren't panicked?
He's a shark.
Look, I think, I don't know whether you get panicked, but I think there are certain mechanisms to kick in that you either calm yourself down and assess the situation very, very quickly, or you may not get out of there, one or the other. So if you panic, it's the worst thing you can do.
Greg Norman's a boss. He's a boss.
He sure is.
He's a gangster. This guy looks great naked by a river near his ranch. He is not afraid of drowning. This guy. Yeah. How did he ever lose at golf?
I have no idea.
He's more interesting than everyone else.
Renaissance man.
Greg, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time, sir.
Yeah, guys, thank you. I loved it. You guys got a great show. Keep up the wonderful work.
Thank you, sir.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU. Dan Le Batard.
I was doing shots of vodka in my room, and the earring was in alcohol, but like real alcohol, and it was in a shot glass. But we had shots of vodka all over my desk in my dorm room. And we put the earring in, and then we started doing shots again, and I actually did the shot of alcohol.
Stugats.
I drank that alcohol, man. I spent the night in the emergency room. You know the alcohol that comes in the brown bottle?
Right.
Yeah, my mouth started foaming.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
In entertainment, is music the place most likely to give you these petty squabbles that we love so much about basketball? Because football doesn't do a great job of giving you the petty squabbles. When Josh Norman and Odell Beckham happened, it's a rarity. It's a rarity across the sky. But when Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving happens, that's not such a rarity. Basketball produces for you some pettiness. Hell, you can argue that Steph Curry is retaliating for LeBron's pettiness. LeBron wearing the Ultimate Warrior shirt. LeBron wearing the hat with the Kermit the Frog sipping tea. LeBron with the Halloween decorations mocking the Warriors blowing a 3-1 lead. Steph is so mad about LeBron blocking his shot 2 finals ago and standing over him that he flew and went and got Kevin Durant and says, go ahead and block this. Like, yeah, you block me because I'm, 6 feet tall, but here, let me go get this. Let's see what you do against this.
He's taller than
Right. But
that might be better.
So the dance that Steph Curry was doing at this wedding is, I got Durant. You can't block him. I'm going to be laughing and dancing like this for 3 years. But is music the only thing that produces that? Because Hollywood doesn't really produce it. Although, Mike, can you find for me that one great, awful quote from a director about, I believe, Nicole Kidman and her skin? It's a famous... Hollywood can do some of this pettiness, but music does it very well. When Jack White doesn't like somebody and won't go to PTA meetings because he doesn't want to run into some other musician who he doesn't like, and then torches him publicly in a way that's funny and clever and really amusing to people who are fans of music and like some of the soap opera.
I'm trying to find this.
All I have is skin care tips from Nicole Kidman.
Right.
Oh, you know what? It wasn't. Forgive me.
Yes.
No, forgive me. It's not Nicole Kidman. It's the woman who was married to Hugh Grant.
Elizabeth Hurley?
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes. That's the quote. It's a direct. Wait. I am someone who likes to underpromise and overdeliver. When you find this quote that I'm talking about, I remember being like recoiling from my computer screen because it felt like it singed my eyebrows. It was such an awful thing for a director to say about Elizabeth Hurley. He was in general not pleased with her work ethic, but on top of that, he started ripping her skin and what she looks like without makeup. It was such an odd thing for a director who had worked with Elizabeth Hurley to mention. I want to get into Cote here.
Are we sure this was Elizabeth Hurley now?
Yeah, because I'm seeing skin products for her as well. So.
Does she not have some skin issues?
Beauty secrets.
Got wonderful skin.
Yeah.
I've confirmed she has skin.
Okay. Real nice skin.
Yeah.
I got to look it up. Oh, man. Do I have the wrong address? I was just making fun of Cote because Cote is so bad at the end of hours.
I think you were looking for actress there, not address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Old.
He said
I'm
actress.
leaking.
Yeah.
Hold on.
over,
So I'm just going to do
It's fish
director
tailing
rips
now.
actress's skin. Okay? Let me, just try that.
I've been there, done that.
Let me see if I can.
Let me read you this from Bruce Arians and get your thoughts on this. Bruce Arians says he has a rule. He will not allow his assistant coaches to stay at the facility past 10 p.m. because he wants to make sure that they do right by their families. You've heard all these horror stories about like Norv Turner's at the office so much that his wife has to come through and take their family pictures and put them on the wall for him because he's too obsessive compulsive about the work that he's doing. You've heard the stories about Joe Gibbs. Joe Gibbs, his family would tape record their family dinner conversations, and he would listen to them while at work because he longed so much. He missed home so much.
That's sad, man.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
And so Bruce Arians forces all the assistant coaches to go home before 10 o'clock, and this is the quote. For our coaches, I tell them, if you miss a recital or a football game or a basketball game, I will fire you, he told Sirius XM NFL Radio. You can always come back and work. Those kids are not going to be there forever. They're going to grow up and be gone.
Good attitude. And rare, I would think. I don't think most coaches do that.
No, most coaches don't. I mean, I just talked the other day. I talked to the Texas Tech coach, Cliff Kingsbury.
All right, there you go.
Good looking.
That is his name.
Yes, and
You're back.
He is good looking.
Baby.
Great skin.
Cliff Kingsbury gets to the office most days at 4 a.m.
It's because he's been out all night, right? He's just coming straight from
No,
the
he
clubs?
says actually
Straight from
that,
the night
no, he
before.
says he doesn't have any fun in Lubbock, that he doesn't do anything with the nightlife despite
That's easy to believe. It's Lubbock.
Right. He
Right.
says it's Lubbock. But what do you guys think? Because there is this obsessive compulsiveness in that industry. It's one of the reasons that it's unhealthy. And we talked to Bruce Arians a couple of weeks ago about perspective and the idea that he doesn't stress the job the way most people do because he's lived a long time and he's experienced a lot in football. And he has wisdom and perspective. But what do you think about the John Gruden getting there at 4 o'clock or 3:30 in the morning? And then the competitive nature of the industry that if one guy's getting in there at 3:30 and you're not, you feel like you're not doing your job by being at the facility 20 hours a day.
Yeah, and it's not just that the days are long, it's that the job is year-round now. I mean, there didn't used to be, the mini camps and the OTA practice days. Coaches now get like a 2-week vacation per year. And otherwise, they're always preparing for off-season practices, for training camp, for the draft, and a combine. I mean, it's never ending. It's become a year-round job in a way that it wasn't.
But it's never ending because they won't allow it to end, right? Like I like the way Steve Spurrier went about it, where he wasn't focused on, okay, what time do I get there as opposed to what time the other coaches got there. He did it his way. And left some time for himself and his family, and still had a very successful career.
He did.
You can do it that way.
Mm-hmm. You can, but there's too much peer pressure not to.
So what do you say to the person who argues that Bruce Arians might have perspective, but that's not the way to go? That it's a competitive ecosystem, and do you want your coach to have this kind of perspective? Yes or no?
Life perspective. Bruce Arians had some recent health issues. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I want my coach to have that kind of perspective. Sure, you could still be successful doing it that way.
You don't want your coach to be the guy who gets there at 3 o'clock in the morning?
I'd prefer my coach get there at 3 in the morning, but I've seen other coaches who have done it not nearly to that extent, and they've still been successful. So
Steve Spurrier won a national championship at Florida. If Bill Belichick all of a sudden developed that attitude, it might become a trend because he's Bill Belichick.
Well, hold on a second.
When a non-champion says that, it doesn't quite have the heft that it should.
Oh, I don't feel that way at all. I understand why you're saying that, but Belichick isn't successful because he's working harder than everybody else. I don't believe. Do you?
I don't. But if he were to all of a sudden say, let's take one day off a week, let's cut out one practice a week, then it would become something that other teams would look at because of his success and his track record.
The great director Otto Preminger once said of Marilyn Monroe, "She is the most self-indulgent tart I have ever come across."
No, that's not. I'll find it during the break. I'll find what I'm looking for during the break.
Any chance it was Keira Knightley? Does that name ring a bell to you? Because a lot of people are suggesting that it was Keira Knightley.
I will look it up during the break, and I will find out.
How are you going to look it up?
I will find it. I will find it during the break, and I will
tell you. Joe Wright,
you.
the director? Does that ring a bell?
This is what I want to ask you guys, though. Is Cliff Kingsbury actually getting any kind of advantage by showing up at his facility at 4 o'clock in the morning?
No.
No, God, no. He beats the traffic.
But what's
getting in.
What's the point of that then, though?
Just trying to impress people. Come on.
No, but like what is the point of getting there at 4 o'clock in the morning if all it's going to do is ruin your life?
I have no idea.
Like, what can he possibly be doing there at 4 o'clock in the morning that's useful?
Just shuffling papers, acting busy.
He's just there. That's it. You're just there, right? Put the lamp on and just
pounding coffee.
You're there.
It doesn't make any sense, though. Does it?
The only guy who's impressed is the janitor, who's also there.
No, there's nobody there. There's nobody there when he gets there.
He's 24 and 26 for his career.
Well, and clearly whatever he's doing at 4 o'clock in the morning is not defensive strategizing.
Don Le Batard.
I tell you, I have a knife, Swiss Army knife, and I'm ready to go.
All right,
whatever you need. I can start a fire with 2 sticks, just like you hear about. I've done it.
Stugats.
You've never done it.
I have done it.
No, you
surviving
haven't.
it.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
All right, it took me a while. I found a death hoax. I found claims that Elizabeth Hurley was dating Bill Clinton for a year.
I found that one too.
It took me a while. Dating David Foster. I found a lot about Elizabeth Hurley, but finally I found what British director Duncan Roy said about Elizabeth Hurley. See if you could find where and why he worked with her. He accused her of throwing tantrums, treating her co-stars with contempt, complaining about her luxurious trailer where she had sex so loudly with her boyfriend that the entire set could hear. And this is what British director Duncan Roy said of Elizabeth Hurley. Quote, Liz seems to have the impression that she is a great actress. She totally believes that she is someone special. She is not. She thinks she's really beautiful. Well, when you've seen her first thing in the morning using a spatula to trowel in thick globs of foundation on her old acne marks, she's not that attractive anymore.
That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
The two worked together in 2004's Method.
She had a tantrum about how her trailer was not the kind she wanted. I couldn't believe it. The Romanians had provided their best one with air conditioning and all the extras. They had gone out of their way to make her comfortable. She also made it clear that she wanted to be called Elizabeth, and I would correct people when she was called Liz. However, she insisted on calling me Dunk, which was just plain rude. Quote, whenever there were a spare 5 minutes, he was down there, meaning her boyfriend, all over her like a rash. The whole trailer was really shaking.
Baby.
Well said.
Yes, well
Baby.
said, says Cody. Instead of doing his job,
Baby.
what he's here for. How is Stugatz better at being you than you are at being you?
Hey, imitation, sincerest form of flattery.
Again, I asked the question.
Thank you.
Why are you always taking thank you speeches? Let's move on. I'm not complimenting you.
Sounded like a compliment.
Let's be honest. If your name is Duncan Roy, there's no way you're nice. You're snarky. Like, if your name is Duncan Roy, you are a snarky individual.
Roy Duncan is a better name.
What? I mean, get out of here. Just get out of here.
What?
Leave for 2 minutes.
Roy Duncan is a normal name.
Get out of here.
What if I refuse?
Greg Cody, 2 minutes in the
Tickling will
box.
happen. Tickling.
Yes, if you refuse, tickling will happen.
I think you were about to put that on the poll. If your name is Duncan, are you snarky?
Are you snarky? If your name is Duncan Roy, can we assume you're snarky? Yes or no? I want to ask you guys a question. What's that? Not you. You get out of here.
Finally, a good line.
You get out of here. It took 2 years of doing this with Cody. Finally, a good line. What I want to ask you guys is this. You know these car washes that ESPN does where they've got a bunch of guests and they go through and they create content all over all the shows.
We're having a couple guests from the car wash today. Michael Che and Colin Jost. They're doing the car wash. Yeah. They're on several shows today.
Everywhere.
Well, but this is what I want to ask you. Because I like having a unique guest list. And I like talking to people about things that they're not discussing with everyone else at our network. Mm-hmm. It's why we didn't mention golf once, I don't think, with Greg Norman.
Don't do this. We can't blow these out.
No, I'm not talking about getting rid of these two people. It's fine to have them at noon. We'll have them. but I'm just curious whether it bothers the audience at all, because I kept hearing during our show that these guys are also coming on with Russillo.
Right.
And every time that happens, I wonder to myself, do listeners of ESPN Radio care that the guest that was on with us is going to be on 2 hours later with them, or was on 2 hours earlier with Mike and Mike?
I think the only people that care are people that listen to ESPN Radio the entire day. And I don't know how many people do that, but most people are listening for, 15 minutes to an hour at a time. So if you didn't hear him with us, you're probably happy that he's on with Russillo later. I don't know.
Yeah, different audiences, and I tend to stay away from guests that have been on Mike and Mike, or guests that you're speaking to later in the day on Highly Questionable. Typically, when we do the car washes, we're the first ones that get a crack at them, and our interviews are totally different.
I know, but I'm asking the audience whether the audience cares, is what I'm asking.
I think the audience that is fans of,
They were on Mike and Mike.
Of the two shows, yes. They were on Mike and Mike today, yeah.
9:30, so.
Yeah, Mike and Mike, 9:30, Russillo later, so. If you're someone who listens to all three shows, then I would think that you would care, because why would you want to hear it again? And again, and again, and again. But if you only listen to one of the shows or only have time to listen, an hour a day, then you're happy, I guess.
Well, does it bother any of you? I'm curious, as lovers of ESPN or even haters of ESPN, as viewers of ESPN, does it bother you when you look up and on 15 different ESPN platforms are the same people selling the same things? I'm curious. Does it bother you? Put it on the poll, Guillermo. I'm asking the question innocently, because I just heard during the break the Russillo show teasing these same guys. Now you're telling me they were on Mike and Mike. Like, we should probably be doing stuff that's off the beaten path. We should probably be avoiding that kind of redundancy.
Do you just not want to do it? Like, do you
no,
want to? I mean,
no.
I feel like you just come out and say
no,
it,
because Stugotz, anytime we have any of these guys who are all over the network, that I object to it, and I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do that.
We are so discerning when it comes to these car washes. When we first joined ESPN, we were so excited because power of ESPN, so many great guests go through there, and our standards are totally different. You don't like car washes. You don't like talking to people multiple times. We never get cracks at these people that go through the car washes. We avoid a lot of big names, turn a lot of people down because they're on said car wash. And you can understand the concept of a car wash. If they're going to make it out to Bristol, might as well promote their product on several shows throughout the day. So we're very discerning. I wanted Colin Jost and Michael Che on because they were they're in a very interesting job in a very interesting time, and they could lend some interesting experience to what their lives are like now in a post-Trump election world.
Do you think the audience knows them by name?
I think the audience knows Weekend Update. That has cachet. Weekend Update, it's getting a spin-off. Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live just had the biggest year it's had, both critically, because so many extra eyes have gotten on it. They got so many nominations when it came to the Emmys.
So they know the bit, but not the names. Is that what you're...
I don't know if they're household names, but Weekend Update is a household thing.
All right, they'll be on with us at noon Eastern. They will be joining us, and Vin Baker returns at 12:30 Eastern as well. Did we forget about Cote? He's been in this box for 4 minutes. Did we just forget about him?
It was a 5-minute major.
He gets so mad at us. He just sits out there steaming at us. Yeah, go get him. Why is he still out there? Just
do you really
there?
Want us to get him?
Nah, never mind.
Dan Batard.
Can you please give me more tips on how to start a fire?
Stugotz.
You need the right kind of sticks. It can't be like a little thin twig, because that's going to snap. It can't be really thick because it's cumbersome. You need 2 sticks that are probably the thickness of one of your fingers. And then you literally rub them in a T formation. And the key is you're going to see smoke first. Once you see you're rubbing them hard enough where the smoke appears, then you're close to getting a little flame. When you get the tiniest little spark, you have to blow on it. You have to fan the flame. And that's the crucial element, because once you get the flame, you're golden.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Los Angeles 2024 Olympic Bid Committee formally announced on Monday the city has reached an agreement with the International Olympic Committee to host the 2028 Summer Games. The decision means Paris will host the 2024 Olympics, and marks the return of the Summer Games to the United States for the first time since 1996 in Atlanta. Seahawks safety Cam Chancellor has agreed to a 3-year, $36 million extension with $25 million in guaranteed money. And finally, according to a study compiled on several aggregate sites that claim to have research done by several psychiatrists and psychoanalysts, yet don't actually source them, so it's probably just fake news, internet garbage. Here are 8 warning signs to help you spot potential psychopaths. 1, they do not feel guilt. 2, they do not feel empathy.
I mean, so far you're 2 for 2, Stugat.
Thanks, Dan. 3, they love to make people feel guilty.
2 for 3.
4, they only value themselves.
3 for 4.
Yeah. 5, they think they are better than everyone else.
4 for 5.
What? I don't think I'm better than everyone else.
You know you are.
Exactly. I know I am. I thought Greg's mic was on. 6, they are liars.
Ooh.
All right, so 4 for 6.
Oh, 5 for 6. I mean, the lying part, it counts as 2.
Are you worried at all that you are absolutely identifying as a psychopath?
I am, yes, I am worried. 7, they have appealing personalities. My goodness. Oh, no.
The 8th one, too? You got the 8th one?
Our last names are Wiener.
They do not take responsibility for their actions.
Good God, man.
I'm a psychopath.
I mean, which is the only one that you're exempt from? Which is, I mean, if we're doing a psychopath checklist and you do 7 of 8.
I don't lie, so. No, the one we agreed on, I don't make people feel guilty. I don't think I do that.
No, you do not.
Okay. For all the latest headlines and information, this is bad. Like, how many of these 8 do you have to have for you to be considered?
7 of 8 sounds amazing.
No, but I think it's all 8. I'm hoping.
Okay, yes, there you go.
For all the latest headlines and information, tune to the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Guillermo, put this on the poll. Our thanks to Greg Cote of the Miami Herald for being in with us today, as he is every Tuesday.
I'm just thinking about the guilt trip that was laid on me if I couldn't get him backstage for the Grateful Dead. Like,
he made you feel guilty?
Well, I mean, he laid it on
to the
really
camera when it comes to talking about me being a psychopath. Oh, geez.
Well, the one that we exempt you
You're
from.
making her feel guilty right now.
I know.
See what's happening?
I know.
Yeah,
nice work, Allison. Wow. Okay.
Did I really? Yeah, I guess I did. Oh, my God. I'm in trouble.
Guillermo, put this on the poll. Would you do that if you were Steph Curry? That being, he was in Rhode Island for this wedding, and after the Harrison Barnes wedding, he and Kent Bazemore just showed up randomly at a Rhode Island house party.
It's cool.
It's a very cool comfort to have with your celebrity. They just joined a bunch of 20-somethings. They just heard a bunch of noise, a bunch of music, and like, let's go over there. Would you do that if you were Steph Curry?
Mm-hmm.
I
would.
It's a cool way to enjoy your celebrity.
It's very cool. Like it's a great story. It's a good idea. It's a good idea right up until something bad happens to Steph Curry because he walked into a stranger's house.
I think that's the best use of celebrity, when you can do stuff like that. You know, like when Bill Murray walks up to total strangers and puts his arm around them, and Dwayne Wade once showed up at a girl's high school prom.
Right.
Just stuff like that.
Some of the younger golfers are starting to do stuff like that, like Spieth and Ricky Fowler. They'll just show up. They'll play rounds with people or play 9 holes with some young guys, or they'll just show up at someone's party. Mm-hmm. I guess it's pretty cool. It's cool, right? Like, you don't. Imagine Michael Jordan walking into a
I don't do very much in the way of envy, but the people who have comfort with that kind of celebrity is something that I envy. That Bill Murray behaving that way and being able to embrace life that way when it comes with the kind of discomforts that come with being Bill Murray, I would love to be able to adjust my attitude, not that I'm the level of celebrity that Steph Curry or Bill Murray are, but just what small level of celebrity I have to be more comfortable with it and to enjoy sharing it with others more.
Right. Probably makes it easier, right? Probably makes it more enjoyable.
It just seems like it'd make life a lot more fun if you do stuff like that.
Yeah, because the norm is to go the opposite extreme and to insulate yourself from the public. and to take the back entrances and get in your limo without interacting with people. So it's really neat to see the opposite.
I want to ask you guys something based on the previous segment we were doing.
So you envy Bill Murray.
I envy Bill Murray's specific comfort with just walking into a dodgeball game as he's walking past it, or walking past a karaoke bar and just getting involved with people are having fun over there. I'm going to go be Bill Murray over there, and I'm going to be embraced. Bill Murray will come and he'll just sit down with somebody and steal their French fries.
Do you think they asked Steph, like, hey, who's your friend?
Kent Bazemore?
Yes, there's no way anyone knew who Bazemore was.
Well, they
right?
know based on his size, right? He's going to be the biggest one at the party. Right? He's going to be bigger than ever. He's going to be, what is he? He's like 6, isn't he 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah, but I imagine like everyone crowded around Steph and lonely old Bazemore in the corner there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can there's some fun to be had as part of Steph's entourage. Guy who plays with Steph. Guy who does Steffi things. How tall is Kent Bazemore? Do I have his height wrong?
I'm checking.
I got to figure. Guillermo, put it on the poll. Was Kent Bazemore the tallest guy at that party?
Kent Bazemore is 6'5".
6'5".
No, probably not.
I mean, you don't know very many people in your life who are 6'5". Do you?
No. How tall are you?
You average person. I'm 6'3.5".
Okay.
Right, I'm 6'4".
You're not 6'5". You know what? Just get out of here.
No!
Get out of here.
No, I've already...
Get out of here. Get out of here. 2 minutes.
So ridiculous.
Man, it's so cool,
2
dude.
minutes.
This is so great. I'm seeing the pictures
Greg
now.
Cote, 2 minutes in the box.
Yeah, get out of here.
I mean, Curry's got beer all over his T-shirt. Like,
Yes.
It's really awesome, man. Man, I hate when Steph Curry forces me to like him.
He is, it looks like fun, right?
Yes, it looks like a lot of fun, yes.
Get out of here.
No pictures of Bazemore, though.
He's so mad at us. I've been heavy-handed with Cody today.
Well, I mean, he's kind of deserved it, right?
All right, fellas. How do we get him next time?
Yeah, well, that's the only reason I kicked him out now, because my timing's been bad.
Hold on, let me make sure this door is closed.
Do we need to pretend? Maybe if we pretend that we have a live spot at the end of the segment, he'll be naturally. There won't be a hard net workout if they have a live spot. Do you think that'll work? We usually do the trick of talk about yourself, but that blew up in our faces.
No, because he realized, because we didn't talk about him at all for the first 55 minutes, and we tried that the first hour.
How are we going to get him
Cody.
specifically
All
next
Cody.
segment? I'm going to try and figure out a way to summon Fat Chris in here to distract him.
Does he have a benchmark, like a Lobos update? Anything coming up?
Can't go to the well.
We're going to try and trick him with his son at the end of the hour here in the next segment. Okay.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Dan Le Batard.
That ranks up there as the most humbling moment in my life.
Stugats.
That and getting so drunk on white wine on a date one time that I pooped in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did I just say that out loud? That was last week.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Mina Kimes in with us here. She's here all week in Miami. Grateful for her presence, doing highly questionable. She is friends with Colin Jost. Yes? You're friends with him, Mina? He's not going to be able to hear us yet.
Oh, okay.
No, he is not hooked up yet, so we will bring them in a second. He appears to be eating something.
Right. So you are friends with him? Is that correct?
I am.
Then?
So he is good friends with my husband. He came to my wedding.
Nice.
To his house.
Very nice.
Go way back. Yeah.
All right.
I hope he acknowledges that.
Okay, that's all that really matters. That's not really self-involved. Maybe we'll ask him to acknowledge
I hope
it.
he's not. Who's that?
I mean,
That would be weird.
There are 6 of us included in this interview. What could possibly go wrong
Yeah, it's
here?
very crowded in here. I want to get Mina's thoughts on Roger Goodell's sound. Can you play that sound for Mina before we get Colin Jost and Michael Che hooked up? Play this sound for Mina. I'd like to get her thoughts on this.
The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, on average. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier. And I think because of all the advancements, including the medical care, that number is going to even increase for them.
Well, he's right. Of course, the average NFL player, I mean, they're incredibly healthy, strong human beings, but that doesn't explain away the fact that a probably outsized portion of them also suffer from horrible deaths. So both of those things can be true at the same time. Roger Goodell is just choosing to focus on one aspect of it.
That was him responding. Jamal Adams said, New York Jet safety, that he would, if the perfect place for him to die would be on the football field, and Goodell was, in cleanup mode. Right,
it was amazing sound to witness because play that sound first, Mike, if you don't mind, or play the sound from, they're sitting next to each other. These two guys are sitting next to each other.
Right.
And Goodell is being asked. Jamal Adams is right next to him.
Yes, it's like an NFL fan forum type thing where fans are there and they're asking questions of Jamal Adams, and then Roger Goodell swoops in.
So that's what happened. So Jamal Adams says this.
If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally. I would be at peace. And that's not a lie. Like, it's so much sacrifice that we go through as a team, and just connecting as one and winning ball games. It's nothing like playing the game of football. But again, I'm all about making the game safer. That's all I can say about it.
So Goodell came in afterward. They asked him another question, and Goodell realized, oh, my God. We can't have Guy talking about dying on the field. Let me talk about how we're healthier than the average human being.
They're all talking about different things. Like Jamal Adams, he's not talking about CTE there.
Well, Goodell is saying, listen, that's not really what he meant. He's just passionate about the game. He loved the game. No, that's exactly what he meant. They asked a teammate of his, and the teammate said the same thing. Yep, I'm good with dying on the field.
What motivates the applause when he says,
we'll get back to that in a second. Don't mind that Mike already said that our guests are ready a minute ago. You can see them on SNL's Weekend Update. It's amazing. Weekend Update specials.
I'm just saying.
Just keep it going, Dad.
6 people.
Go on.
Here we go.
This is going to be great.
Keep it going.
You have the floor.
Chunkiler!
SNL's Weekend Update specials premiering August 10th at 9 p.m. on NBC. Colin Jost and Michael Che are joining the show.
It's unbelievable, man. Michael Che, I'm not complimenting you. Michael, thank you guys for being on with us. I'd like to ask you questions, though, about Colin being a ladies' man, because the gossip, the tabloids, that's right, you. The tabloids love to talk about him making out with Scarlett Johansson at after parties and stuff, but I don't want to ask him about that because he's going to run away scurry scared. Michael Che, tell me about this guy's, talents with the single party lifestyle.
I mean, look at him. He's doing all right. I don't know. Yeah, you don't really give me any of the dirty details.
Hey, he's doing just fine. He's,
Yeah, I'm doing just fine. Yeah, but it's getting expensive.
But you're not the one. Are a lot of people asking you about this? Should I not be asking you about this? Is this subject matter that, how the hell do you arrive in a place? Last time we talked to you, you were not in a place where you were making out with Scarlett Johansson.
Are you're talking to Michael?
I'm talking to the one who
not making out with Scarlett Johansson. I don't know what's going on. Colin.
Back to you, Michael.
You think that he's doing this to you. He does this to all of us. No one can get a word out of him about anything. We have to read about it at the same time you do.
Well, you're a fat kid, right, Colin? Because you're beautiful now, but you're a fat kid, right?
You don't have to say it like that.
You were fat.
I played sports, but I was also somehow gaining weight the whole time. I played 5 sports growing up. I was super chubby, and then I stopped playing sports. I lost all the weight. I was like a reverse Michelle Obama ad.
He played all of the middle positions in football, and that's where they put the roundest kids.
You're a D-tackle, were you?
Are we not allowed to talk about Scarlett Johansson anymore?
I don't know. Ask Colin. He's your friend. Colin, you know Mina? You were at her wedding.
Yeah, of course.
Hey.
Hi, Mina.
Hi.
I'm so happy to see you on my TV, Mina.
I'm so happy to see you on this little screen. I don't know if you can see me. I would just like to say I
can't right now. I don't see anything.
When I saw the tabloid thing about her New York Post about Scarlett Johansson, I texted my husband. I said, "This is all your fault. We should have gotten married a year later. Then I would be friends with Scarlett Johansson because she would have been at our wedding."
Right.
I'm retroactively angry at
She has a lot of regrets about that, too.
How did Colin do at your wedding? Do you remember? Was he prowling the dance floor?
Prowling?
Yes, was he prowling the dance floor?
No, he was great. He was him and my husband go way back. They're friends.
You guys had the craziest reception ever because it was in typical you and Nick fashion in like a rug warehouse.
It was. Yeah.
In the middle of the summer outside of Philly. So it was like 110 degrees and we were surrounded by old antique rugs. And everyone, like, there were like pregnant women there. They were like, what is happening? I think I'm hallucinating. Please get me water.
A rug warehouse?
It was an antique store. Yeah, it was like a very unusual wedding.
And I don't think they normally had weddings either. So during the reception, someone who worked there was like, oh, you know what we should have here? Trash cans. Does anyone have trash?
And I want to talk about the gift you got us, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
It was from this weird antique store. I got them. It was like
Describe it.
Kind of burned them for having their wedding in an antique store because I got them an antique as a present.
No, do you remember? It is a very disturbing painting of Michael Jackson from Nigeria. I told Nick that he had to get it out of our house.
Terrible gift. Just terrible.
It scared your dog.
It scared our dog.
Hold on. I want to talk. Michael, again.
That's pretty great.
Colin Jost, Michael Che. You can see them on SNL's Weekend Update specials premiering August 10th at 9 p.m. on NBC. Weird question to ask you, Michael, and somewhat conflicting. Are you happy that Trump is in office?
No. No.
Well, because it's funny. Because it's a source of great comedy, and SNL has never been more popular. Like, the best ratings
then why
in 25
did you vote
years.
For him? I voted for him because I lost that bet to you. You said that Colin Kaepernick would get a job. No, you're not happy. You're never happy for bad news, I don't think. But it becomes redundant after a while. I would much rather make fun of Hillary Clinton every week than Donald Trump, to be honest with you. I got a lot to work with.
All right, because it's been you guys would agree that it's been a gold mine for people in comedy and
for democracy
and for
just for Colbert, just for
people
Colbert.
in television. The comedians don't even want to do comedy anymore. They're all doing political riffs as their act.
It's great for the press secretary market.
Yes,
everyone who's in the market to be a press secretary is.
Well, give me what you got on Mooch. Give me what you guys got on Mooch. You guys got to have something good on Mooch.
I don't know a lot about Mooch, to be honest with you. He didn't last long enough for me to get to know him. But the weird thing about Mooch is it's kind of uncomfortable to make fun of because it's all just like hacky Italian jokes. You're like, wait, why are you just burning Italians for no reason?
It's funny that's not racist if you go after Italians.
Yeah, it's like it's not racist if he supports Trump. It's fair game. It's like Chris Christie. It's all just mean fat jokes. And you're like, all right, well,
that's all the best we got.
I thought we weren't supposed to make fun of fat people, but unless you voted for Trump, then it's fair game.
I'm from Staten Island, so I kind of liked the Mooch because it made sense to me. He was like every dad that coached the opposing soccer team when I was growing up. I was like, oh yeah, he's probably going to punch. He's going to punch a referee in the head.
Who would have impersonated him? That's what I'm so bummed about.
He definitely has a baseball bat in the trunk of his car.
I've been pushing for Che to do it, but he seems reluctant.
No, I'm good.
You have one
You're in?
I'm good.
If you slick your hair way back,
I'll grow it out.
Who is the person in comedy that you got, or in politics that you guys are most grateful for? If you're not grateful for Trump, like, who is the ripest for humor? Because Christie's pretty good, too.
Well, it's hard. In our real lives, we do also want, a good country to live in. So we also do want, we're grateful for, people in retrospect, OJ and, fun stuff. But, Tanya Harding, we're grateful for that.
I'm most grateful for actually the viewers that watch it, like the ultra liberals that get so upset if we say anything that doesn't seem to bash the right. And when they get upset, that's kind of fun. Or the ultra conservatives that get upset whenever we bring up anything ridiculous that's happening in the White House. Any of the many things, they make it seem like we're not supposed to cover it. It's like, we don't want to cover it, but how do you ignore the guy? How do you ignore this guy? Like, he's the bright orange elephant in the room. But, it's most fun to see how excited the audience is by any way anybody we hit.
When you're doing all this, does it occur to you that the president is watching, and suddenly you do actually have this sort of material, tangible effect on what happens?
Well,
he's watching.
Hopefully that's not. Hopefully we don't. If we're having an actual effect on things, that's a bad sign.
Yeah,
we're not qualified to have that impact.
Yeah, we're not really news guys.
You don't
news
say.
Guys? I think the term is news guys.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You guys don't actually do the news. The news that you do, what you're saying, you're alleging, you're revealing for the first time here, is a spoof of the news.
It's almost a take on the news.
It's I think they call it a send-up.
It's a send-up.
Okay.
It's a laugh down.
Okay, so that is not serious news that you guys are doing on Saturday night.
No, right. It's like we joke, but that's really like sometimes they'll write an article and it's like, Weekend Update says XYZ, and it's like, no, we joked. We didn't say. It's not a state. We're joking. It's all a joke. It's not supposed to be real. Ha ha ha. They don't get it.
Who do you most delight in upsetting? When you say the extremes on the far right and the far left, never mind politics, just in general, the people that you most like upsetting, liberals.
Yeah, liberals are the most fun to upset because they think they're very much above it and they get so upset.
Liberals are more conservative than conservatives because liberals get offended on behalf of people that's not even watching.
They get, and also if you're liberal and then you say one thing that's not like in the liberal agenda, they turn on you so fast. Like when Elon Musk met with Trump. And they were like, "You're out of here," and he's like, "No, it's about clean energy." They're like, "No, kill yourself."
They're always fun to ruffle.
Yeah,
that's a surprising answer. You guys not surprised by that? Because I thought that, generally speaking, comedians love taking down conservatives.
No, conservatives are fun.
And then everyone's doing that. That's easy.
Yeah, I mean, conservatives are fun. It's always, remember when you were in school, I don't know if you were front of the classroom kid or back of the classroom kid, but, when you sit in the back of the class and you're throwing spitballs, you always want to hit the nerd. You want to hit the smart girl. You don't want to hit the fun kids.
Yeah.
You want to hit the teacher. You want to hit the person with their hand up first.
So kids, hit your teachers. That's the takeaway
that's
here.
An excellent dismount. Thank you, guys. A lesson for all of America. Kids, hit your teachers. You can see them on SNL's
The world would be a better place. Get super conservative and hit your teachers.
Premiering August 10th at 9 p.m. on NBC. I love that it's hit your teachers, but you gave us nothing on Johansson. Don't think I didn't notice. You gave us nothing. Nothing.
Well, what about me? I'm making out with the guy that played Thor.
That was not the guy. That was the guy who played Thor in Times Square.
So same thing.
Yeah, he was Puerto Rican.
Hey, man, money well spent.
You paid him?
I have the money. Why not?
Bat mitzvahs are expensive. Time for some ads.
Puerto Rican Thor. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You can see them on SNL's Weekend Update specials, premiering August 10th, 9 p.m. on NBC.
Don Le Batard.
Trailers for sale or rent. Rooms to let 50 cents.
Stugatz.
I'm Greg Cote, and that's how it was back in my day.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
This song always reminds me of John Saunders. The late John Saunders, ESPN personality. Everyone loved John Saunders. John Saunders has posthumously written a book about his fight with depression, a fight that I did not know, even though I know John Saunders, that he was struggling with. And the reason it reminds me of John Saunders is because my father did this song as a lyric on the television show. My father does lyrics, usually rap lyrics, but he did this, hello. And he had a fan that was blowing stuff in his face, like meant to blow his hair, and it blew some papers across the desk, and they stuck to his face. And my father just kept going with these lyrics right here. He just kept doing the lyrics with papers stuck to his face from a nearby fan because the video has fans in it.
So if this song wasn't sad enough.
Right. Now it reminds me of the late John Saunders, my friend, who I didn't know was depressed, who delighted watching the show with his daughter, loved the show. Did I tell you that right before he passed away, we were talking to him about coming down here and hosting the show with us because he loves my dad so much?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that would have been incredible.
Yeah, he said that a couple times. You just weren't listening.
So
I was trying to make it sound like I do remember it, but I wanted Dan to feel like in the audience that I was hearing it for the first time. I was being a good teammate.
Polite.
Yes.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Did you know that SNL comedians delighted in angering liberals? Because that interview right there, I really enjoyed it. Some of you didn't. Because anytime we talk anything politics, you get really angry. But I loved what it is that they were talking about there, and I did not know. Did you guys know that they love outraging liberals above all else, extreme liberals? Did you guys know that?
No.
I would not have guessed that.
Would not have guessed that either. Funny, though.
I'm a huge SNL fan, so I kind of knew that Colin Jost sort of went through it a little bit with Twitter critiques and people getting upset at him because he dared to make fun of liberals, too. I did like his line. The liberals are more conservative than the conservatives.
Yes, it was funny. I thought all of that was it was a lot of fun talking to them.
I think it was Michael Che who said, he had plenty of material for Hillary Clinton, and that's fine. I understand. Like, they're comedians. They have material on every single person, especially if you give them enough time, but not as many people would be tuning in if it was material about Clinton as opposed to material about Trump.
Mike, why did I like that so much more than the audience seemed to? Because we're getting a lot of people who are complaining here via text that they did not like that conversation.
I think you're fascinated by their jobs. In this time specifically, it's why we were interested in having them on, because their lives have gotten better. They were playing coy a little bit, but Weekend Update, while it's a centerpiece, it's the main benchmark of Saturday Night Live, which is the biggest show in comedy. People strive their entire careers to get to that point. It's getting a spin-off because of these times. They're getting countless specials because people are interested in what they have to say because of the state of politics right now. And their job specifically is in that niche. That's not even a niche anymore. Everyone's doing it.
It's been jarring to watch.
Why are people saying they didn't like that interview? They didn't like
there are
that
some people here that didn't understand why I enjoyed it so much. But it is interesting to see what it is that's happening in comedy where Jimmy Kimmel is doing monologues about health care that the comedians have realized. Seth Meyers, they've all realized it. No, I'm not going to just do straight comedy. I've got to do politics. I must do politics because there are rewards in doing politics because Stephen Colbert is passing Jimmy Fallon. Saturday Night Live's ratings are better than they've been in 20 years.
Trevor Noah's had a bit of a bounce back a little bit. He accepted an award at a Viacom award show, and now all of a sudden more people are getting onto his show. Yep. I think Comedy Central has a show in which a fake Trump hosts a late night show and it airs once a week.
Yeah, pretty good too. That election was a gold mine no matter who won, right? I mean, Hillary, Trump, Bernie Sanders as the third candidate. I mean, if Bernie Sanders had been elected, Larry David all of a sudden is doing him every day.
But if I ask you guys this question, the question is this, right? If I say, do you like that comedians are all doing political riffs now? And some of them serious political riffs, not even funny political riffs, like essays that are soaked in their political beliefs. The answer is going to be no, right? The answer is going to be no, not here. I don't want it here. And yet the ratings suggest that the answer is not no. The answer mustn't be no because every damn comedian is throwing away everything they used to do politics.
Because people are tuning into it. Because of one guy. Because of Donald Trump.
Comedy typically holds up a mirror to society. And our society is a lot more about politics today than it was 4 years ago, and so on and so forth. It's a part of everyday life. You can't escape it.
Dan, you know how much I love sports. I watch SportsCenter all the time. You mock me how much ESPN I watch. I've been watching CNN lately. Not because I'm a fan of any of this. I'm just interested what's going to happen next. What is going to happen next? I have found myself almost on a nightly basis tuning in to CNN and MSNBC and Fox News.
Part of my reaction to the Mooch news that came down yesterday, I was like, bummer. They didn't even get to make fun of him on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, well, we needed more time with Mooch.
Everything is blurred now. I listen to John Oliver. I'm a big fan of his, and he's funny. He's a comedian, but yet he makes pointed essays that also have laughs in them. I think you pick and choose whose ideology is suitable to your tastes.
You're not going to believe the egregious laziness that Greg Cote has forced upon our show. We'll explain it to you next.
Dan Le Batard.
You decided to celebrate Guillermo's horrible contribution to the show with a hello,
Stugats. That's an affirmation. When you get a hello from me, that's like the equivalent of 5 exclamation points or 4.5 smiley faces. Hello.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
We talked to this guy yesterday. His new book, God and Starbucks, is available now wherever books are sold. We only covered some of the stuff with Vin Baker that he covered in his book, so we're grateful to have him back on again. Again, God and Starbucks, available now wherever books are sold. Thank you for rejoining us, Vin. Wanted to ask you about some of the details in the book that I did not ask you about yesterday. I'm curious. I'm reading here in these notes that you felt like the team was doing things to mask your addiction, that you were getting help on masking your addiction. How so? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, no, I don't feel like the teams are necessarily doing things to mask my addiction. Dan, I certainly think, when you're a player of my caliber at that particular time in my career, with a max contract guy, I think, you try to work with the player as much as you can, given that the financial responsibility was there, certainly the commitment from the team. So there was teams that were trying to, help me through the recovery process or help to get me help. So I don't necessarily think they were masking it then. I think teams were certainly trying to help me as much as they could, given the situation that I was an all-star caliber player, a max contract guy, and, I was just refusing a lot of the help at that time because I didn't understand where I was with my addiction.
Why did you choose to be so honest in the book? For example, why did you talk about your relationships and the fact that you had a couple of girlfriends at the same time that didn't know each other and strippers? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I think that then anyone in recovery will tell you if you're going to be honest about your recovery, you have to certainly be honest about the history. I certainly have nothing to hide as far as where I was. You asked the question yesterday, Dan, about the $100 million. If you're an alcoholic, then in an NBA player, NBA All-Star, there's certain things that come with that. There's bad financial decisions. There's certain decisions that you make, in your personal life that kind of goes with the territory. And so if I wanted to be honest about my recovery and continue my sobriety, I have to be honest about the history of it. I don't want to cut any corners, especially I'm not talking to the NBA world, Dan. I'm talking to a recovery world. And unfortunately, some of my stories are about this, amazing organization that is the NBA. But at the same time, my book is written to help those in recovery or help those who are struggling with addiction. It wasn't meant to embarrass the NBA or embarrass anyone involved. It was meant to talk to a world of recovery. So that was my goal, and that's what I set out to do.
Did you have any hesitance about, for example, writing that you didn't try marijuana until you saw that Glenn Robinson was able to do so before games and putting names on things?
I did, Dan, and I spoke in detail to HarperCollins about that, and I don't want to give the specifics on it, but I did have an issue and a problem with putting names in the book, and we had those discussions, and I didn't necessarily win those discussions. I spoke in honesty about what happened in the past. Again, it was in no way to embarrass Glenn and those people involved with me during those years. It was to speak to a recovery world, and that's what I was trying to do. But I in no way tried to embarrass any of my former teammates. The NBA, I was speaking to a world about the lows and the highs of addiction, and that's what I attempted to cover.
Has anyone gotten so mad at you, Vin, about that, about putting their names to it, that they no longer speak to you?
The fights you lost with the publisher where you're telling them, hey, I don't want to use that name, and they're doing it anyway.
Yeah, I did lose that fight, but I haven't gotten any backlash from former teammates. We're 20. This is 1993, 1994, 1995. Right. When I was in Milwaukee, so we're about 20 some odd years removed from those times. I was a young kid. Those my teammates were young at the time. We made mistakes. It was mistakes we made when we were young men. So I hope not to get any backlash. But again, my goal was not to talk about the NBA and the culture. My goal in writing this book was to talk to those people who have lost their way with addiction and to give them some light at the end of the tunnel. I've let everyone tell this story, from the money to the addiction to everything else. It was my opportunity not to tell my portion of the story or my part of it, but to help use my platform as a former NBA All-Star and Olympian to help someone say, hey, Vin Baker did it, I can do it as well.
Vin Baker with us, new book, God and Starbucks, available now wherever books are sold. I'm curious, how much lying were you doing, Vin, when you had the two girlfriends that didn't know about each other?
Oh, Dan, a lot. But I think when you're in that world, Dan, it's such a fantasy world with all the money, the travel, and everything that comes along with the notoriety of being in the NBA. It's not a ton of lying, Dan. It's kind of like, you tell certain things, but also it's the lifestyle that you lead. If you make $100 million and you're an all-star, there's some kind of, sometimes you think you're bigger than life. You're bigger than feelings. You're bigger than emotions. You're bigger than anything. And so that's where I was. And I'm grateful and thankful that I was humbled by my experiences and everything that happened, that I'm where I'm at now.
Again, new book, God and Starbucks, available now wherever books are sold. You're a very candid interview, Vin, but some people were complaining yesterday about not getting specifics because you was talking very eloquent, interesting, deep terms about addiction, but the specifics of what it is that you are dealing with. Your worst day at the height of addiction looked like what in specifics, details?
I think my worst days, Dan, it was waking up in the morning and my body literally ready to shut down, whether either by seizure or death, and having to lean over and grab alcohol and drink it just to function during the day. And that was the worst part. You go from being a superior athlete, being able to do anything on the basketball court at the highest level, to rolling over in the bed, waking up and having to drink alcohol to just function. And that's the lowest of the low, Dan. And I've, being an all-star, being an Olympian, and then having to go through that physically was the lowest of the low. And not losing money, not losing houses, not losing restaurants, but physically not having hope and not being able to function without drinking is the lowest of the low.
So a bottle by the bed.
Oh, yeah, Dan, that's, a bottle by the bed, drinking to go to sleep, and then knowing that you have to drink, not feeling, knowing that you have to drink to just function during the course of the day. That's the toughest part.
Vin, you're a big man. How much were you drinking? Like, you were going through how much liquor?
So bottles a day, Dan. A bottle a day of alcohol. And so I'd have to do that every day. Whatever would make me the amount to make me not feel like I was going to have sweats or have anxiety. That's how much I would drink. And that's the scary part of it.
Bottle a day for how long, Ben?
This was my bottle a day probably started after the NBA. We're talking about in 08, 09, right before I got sober in 11. So we're talking about a bottle a day starting in 09. So it was basically a slow suicide, guys. I was doing a lot to just try to take care of the addiction, and that's what alcoholism is. It wasn't even a matter of how much I was doing. I had to do enough to make sure I get through the next moment, the next day. That's where I was with it.
We talked too much with him about the dark stuff and didn't talk nearly enough with him about God and Starbucks. So the name of the book is God and Starbucks. It's available now wherever books are sold. And to be fair to you, Vin, because we've talked about the, dark stuff, tomorrow, God and Starbucks. Tomorrow, we'll talk about God and Starbucks. You in?
We give Vin?
You in?
I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you so much.
All right. We're going to do it tomorrow because look, man, he's been honest about the details of the dark stuff. Let's get to some of the positive stuff because he's dug his life out. So Vin Baker will join us again tomorrow.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.